Welcome to Variable and Absorption Costing. In short, ano to? This will be compressed into one basic question. How do we treat fixed factory overhead? So simple. Okay, so what will happen next? Okay, pag variable costing, fixed factory overhead is expense or treated as a period cost. Anong ibig sabihin ng period cost? Ibig sabihin nun, yung total cost mo for that period, expense agad. So, very simple. So, we assume that the fixed factory overhead is expense right away. So, yun yung variable costing. How about absorption costing? Ito naman, fixed factory overhead is considered as inventoriable cost. So, anong ibig sabihin ng inventoriable cost? Ibig sabihin nito, yung fixed factory overhead, ina-allocate natin siya sa product. And in case na hindi mabenta yung product at the end of the year, so ang assumption is that fixed factory overhead allocated to that product will remain on the ending inventory. Okay? Kasi ano yung assumption pag absorption? Ang assumption natin, yung fixed factory overhead, sinasama natin siya sa product cost or sa cost of inventory. Okay? So that's why we call it as inventoriable cost. How about reporting? Si variable costing, this is not allowed for external reporting. So, hindi to nire-recommend ng financial reporting standards. But, bakit kailangan natin tong malaman? Because it can be used by the management for decision-making purposes. So, even if we do not use variable costing for financial reporting, this is still relevant for the management. Kasi remember, the management is an internal user and the management can use this information for decision-making purposes. Meanwhile, absorption costing is allowed for external reporting. So sa financial reporting standards natin for inventory, we are using absorption costing. So let's now go to the comparison. Okay? So there are instances that the net income of the using variable costing will differ if we use absorption costing. So ano yung mga relationship? Okay? So there are two things that are relevant. Number one, production. Number two, the sales. Okay? So yun yung dalawang variables. Okay? So punta muna tayo sa first. When sales exceed production volume, so it means that net income under variable costing is higher than absorption costing. Bakit? Because we consider fixed factory overhead cost as an expense. Okay? So remember, pag mataas ang sales natin, mataas din yung contribution margin natin. Okay? So that's the reason why if the sales exceed production volume, net income under variable costing is higher than absorption costing. Let's now go to the second part. The second part is when production volume exceed sales. Ito, baliktad. Yung na-produce mo, mas malaki kaysa sa sales. The effect will be net income under absorption costing is higher than variable costing. Why? Because, kasi di ba, remember, kung yung na-produce natin, hindi natin siya mabenta, di ba ilalagay natin siya sa ending inventory? So if we assume na kasama doon sa cost of inventory, yung fixed factory overhead allocated, then it means na pag absorption costing, some of the fixed factory overhead allocated, mapupunta sila sa ending inventory natin. So that's why our net income is higher for absorption in comparison with variable costing, di ba? Variable, ibig sabihin nito, i-expense natin lahat. So, pag ganun, pag maliit lang yung sales natin and the same lang yung factory overhead cost, then we will always expect na mas mababa ang net income if we use variable costing. And finally, when production volume equals sales, then that's the time that net income under absorption costing will equal variable costing. So that's it for the theory. Right now, let's now go to the problem.